When I was very young, and I guess this was the most, in a sense, serious love affair, because I don't know, this was a good time to be in love, I guess. And we both were very much into literature. We were attending the same classes and everything. And the first book by Nabokov I read, he gave it to me. It was Ada. And he wrote on the flyleaf, to Azar, my Ada Ted. You know, I always remember, I still have that book. You know, and so he started, and Ada, you know, a very difficult book to read. I read it as a fairy tale. For me, he became, my first introduction to him was the way he becomes very difficult and sometimes really too much to take, you know. But at the same time, he created a fairy aura around the characters and an amazingly visual sort of form of writing, which I very much appreciate. The images just stick in my mind. So that is how it started. And then when I went back to Iran, and I was frantically trying to reconnect, and my reconnections were through books, I started rereading all my favorite authors. And Nabokov, all of a sudden, I identified with him because of the sense of the deep and poignant sense of exile. You know, and the book I wrote about him, each of the chapters, there's 7 chapters, in one way or another, they talk about the issue of exile. And not just geographical exile, exile within your own country. Forever a stranger, you know. And as a writer, you're anyway a stranger. You have to be in order to write well, you know. So that came to me very strongly. And then I discovered small things in him which I felt sometimes in the West people didn't, because he had deeply, even if he had not been in Soviet Union, he had experienced, he had thought about it, he had obsessed over it. So his novels are always a celebration of the individual freedoms. And he's always against the mindsets that impose their images on others. The liberation comes from the individual. The celebration, writing becomes a response to reality's tyranny, you know. So you know, I could express all of this through him, you know, and through his love of writing. He loves it. Of course, Russians do that to you. Bulgakov used to be one of my absolute, you know, I once, this bookstore, before it closed down, at the beginning of the revolution, I would go and I bought Bulgakov's Master and Margarita, and then I went back and bought every single copy to give it to my friends, to force them to read this book. That wild imagination, Gogol, you know, I don't know, you can go on. Definitely, definitely. The Master and Margarita is, and the whole irony that obviously if the devil exists, God exists, you know, and also the subversiveness of love. The fact that the writer and the lover become the most subversive elements in a country where uniformity is demanded, you know, that lunacy of being a poet and a lover that Bulgakov celebrates, I think is just, it very much resonates with our lives.